Today in Science from Wired.
Neuralink's first user is constantly multitasking with his brain implant. Noland Arbaugh is the first to get Elon Musk's brain device. The 30-year-old speaks to Wired about what it's like to use a computer with his mind and gain a new sense of independence. By Emily Mullen. In 2016, Noland Arbaugh suffered a spinal cord injury while swimming in a lake. The details are fuzzy, but what he remembers is rushing toward the water with his friends, diving in and hitting his head on something or someone. He floated to the surface, unable to move. Doctors later confirmed that he was paralyzed from the neck down. Arbaugh went from being a self-sufficient college student to moving back in with his parents and relying on them for his daily needs. He learned how to get around in a wheelchair and use a mouth-held stick to operate an iPad. But the hardest adjustment was feeling like he was a burden on his family. The year 2016 was also when Elon Musk co-founded the brain implant startup Neuralink. This January, Arbaugh became the first person to receive the company's investigational device, dubbed telepathy, as part of a clinical trial. Known as a brain-computer interface, or BCI, it decodes intended movement signals in the brain and translates them into computer commands. Arbaugh just has to think about moving a cursor on his laptop screen, and it moves. The experimental device has given Arbaugh, now 30, a sense of independence. Before, using a mouth stick required someone to position him upright. If he dropped his mouth stick, it needed to be picked up for him, and he couldn't use it for long or he'd develop sores. With the Neuralink device, he has nearly full control of a computer. He can browse the web and play computer games whenever he wants. And Neuralink says he has set the human record for cursor control with a BCI. Arbaugh isn't the first person to get a BCI. One recipient, Nathan Copeland, has had one for more than 9 years. Beyond Neuralink, several other companies are working to commercialize BCIs to help people with paralysis, mental health disorders, and even blindness. Arbaugh recently spoke with Wired via Zoom to talk about his experience in the Neuralink study. This interview has been edited for length and clarity. First question, before you got the implant, what was your day-to-day life like? Arbaugh's response? I was lying in bed most days, all day. I didn't get up a whole lot unless I had something to do. I got up to take showers every other day. I got up when people would come to my house to see me, but outside of that, I was just in bed. Right before my initiation into Neuralink, I was trying to learn a lot more. I was trying to get my life back on track because I had kind of done nothing for 5 years after my accident. So I started learning languages and stuff. The 2 years before the Neuralink trial, I was actively trying to better myself. Next question. You've said you found out about the Neuralink trial from a friend. Had you heard of brain-computer interfaces before then? Answer, no, never. Musk is a very showy person, and Neuralink has live-streamed some flashy updates over the years. What was your initial impression of the company? I was blown away at what they were trying to do. You know, Elon Musk, he has had such an impact on the world, whether people think that's good or bad. It was really cool knowing that he was a part of something like this. I really feel like we're kindred spirits with our mentality of wanting to better humanity. It was very cool to see the richest man in the world, possibly one of the most powerful men in the world, taking an interest. You just don't see this kind of funding go into things for handicapped people. You had to go through a pretty extensive screening process to find out if you were eligible for the Neuralink trial. What was that like? It took about a month. I applied, and within a day, I'd gotten an email back that said I'd been selected, and they wanted me to go through the first interview. I did a bunch of Zoom interviews. I had to do a lot of medical screenings. They asked about my medical history and family history, and I had to do a psych screening. At the very end, about a month in, I went to the hospital they had selected. I did a full day of screening, which was 8 hours of tests, including brain scans, different head scans, blood tests, and urine tests. I did another psychoanalysis and then memory tests to see if I was all there cognitively, and also just to get a baseline. So if anything changes, they would be able to know where I was when I began. That was a long day. After that, it was just the waiting game. Did Neuralink prepare you for the possibility that the implant might not work? Arbaugh answered, I knew there were a lot of risks going in, and I knew it might not work. I didn't anticipate any of that, though. I had complete faith in Neuralink. The day after your surgery, Musk posted on X that the device was showing neuron spike detection. Was it really that fast? I was lying in my hospital bed right after surgery, and they came in and woke up the implant for the first time. They showed me a screen with different channels on it, and they said they were real-time signals that the Neuralink was picking up in my brain. So I knew it was working. My first instinct was to just start playing around, moving my fingers to see if I could notice any big spikes. Every time I moved my index finger, there was a big yellow spike, and I did it 3 or 4 times. I was just lying there thinking, that's so cool. I moved my finger and it jumped, and everyone in the room was just geeking out. Once they started putting me in the app and letting me do things like calibration and body mapping, and I got cursor control for the first time, it was very intuitive. It wasn't hard at all, and I think it's only going to improve from here. Final question. What has Neuralink told you about the possibility of getting an improved model? Arbaugh's response? I would love one, but they haven't promised me anything. They're not allowed to because it's seen as an incentive. Since it's a voluntary study, I'm not allowed to be incentivized at all in any way. I hope that being the first shortlists me in some way, but if this is the extent of my participation, then that would be enough for me. Thanks for listening to Wired. My name is Zeke Robison, and for more stories like this one, visit us at wired.com.
Like what you learned? Subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and get more science news at wired.com/science.